will happen. So the reaction will happen after Dr. Deng Majok Chol reaction and then give us later on. So this is the brief, and I wanted to go into the business why we are here, all of us. So we can request now the engineer Charles Koboji and engineers Philip Akol give us the presentation on your findings. Thank you.
Honorable Paul Maideng, Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation, representative of the diplomatic missions in South Sudan, honorable members of parliament present, academia, partners working in South Sudan, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. In front of you, Koboji Charles. I'll present to you a brief note on, the unprecedented rising water levels in the Nile, and then what is its implication in South Sudan, and what do we know currently in the Republic of South Sudan. So if you can project, we prepared this short presentation really, and I can just move ahead because this is a title. I think this briefing comes as a result of this widely circulated letter from Honorable Paul Maideng, and it's a reaction to the letter sent by the counterpart in Uganda. And of course, a number of recommendations have been pointed out. Very important to point out here is that, the Ugandan authorities by then releasing up to 2,400 cubic meters per second. This is equivalent to, if we say our water tankers like 3 cubic meters or 3,000 liters, these are about 800 of them passing per second down into the River Nile. So this is really very big, because if we talk about 2,400 cubic meters, we may not visualize. So say, for example, if we are comparing with these water tankers of 8,000, so these are about 300 roughly. So this is a really big volume of water, released from the lake. And where is it going? It has to pass through the Republic of South Sudan and then downstream the reaches. Secondly, we also know a kind of verbal communication, within the week, that they actually have increased it to about 2,600. This is really an increase of about 200 cubic meters per second, equivalent to about 60 additional 60 water tankers, passing per second. So this is, I don't know, our rivers are really a problem. Can you move ahead, please? So what do we know about the Equatorial Lakes region? It's really about the Lake Victoria, the Lake Kyoga, the Lake Albert, of course joined by the Lake Edward on the western part of Uganda, and with outlet from Lake Albert. This water are all from the Greater Lakes region, and all the outlet from the Greater Lakes region exits Lake Albert and then joins us, South Sudan, through Nimule. And of course, the other tributaries coming in. Facts about this is that we are part of, the Nile Equatorial Lakes region. Secondly, of course, the rainfall within these lake regions varies from about 400 to 2,000, millimeters per year. So this, we need to have this background. And something for us to know really is about, some of the flood and drought risk knowledge. Well, I will escape the topic of, the drought, is that, the whole of the country is within the Nile Basin. Almost, some put at 95, others put 100%. yet to discuss. But one thing is that, all these waters passing through the Nile, and from Nimule down to Reng, there's barely any regulatory structure. So this is a fact, and we know about it. In essence, the Nile system is a conduit. Anything that comes here must get out. We don't have any control over it. So this is a very important information about our risky knowledge. Secondly, our country is shaped in the form of a spade. This is how I describe it. I don't know, maybe some people will describe it. Really depressed in the central part, rising from the west and the east and the south. All this water gets down, and then the slope is so low, and then the water flows very slow, which means that in case it is too much, it can easily spread and covering a lot of areas. So these are some of the facts we need to know about it. Now, what do we know in the region? The Climate Prediction Center in Nairobi, part of the IGAD, specialized scientific, center, always issues out a long-term, or they call it this long-range or seasonal forecast for the month of March, April, and May. And this is widely circulated. I think it came out in February. And of course, generally the region was expected to receive above average rainfall. So the other figures here, which I'm sorry, you cannot see it. But for those who are with papers, I think that's very good. We see some regions here, zone 1 is somewhere northeastern part, there are some figures. Briefly, what do we know about above, below, or near normal? We really need also to understand this, because number one is that when IGAD says the focus is going to be above normal, it means that, say, for example, in Juba here, between March up to June, maybe we are receiving up to 300 millimeters of rain. So if the rain expected to come during that time is above 300 or 400, this is when we expect it is mentioned to be above normal. I'm just giving some figures so that, we don't confuse, or we don't, at least to have some background about it. So, and the rest, of course, if we say on average, this average is about 30 years of record. So we can say that on average, Juba receives about 300 millimeters of rain for the 3 months, March, April, and May. So if the rainfall expected is maybe 400, 500, then we say that it is above the normal, rainfall. But if it is, about 200 down, then we say it is below normal. But if it is between 250, maybe to 350, we say it is near normal, because that is the range of the normal rainfall we expect in Juba. So the meteorologists know all this, but of course, for us, we see it on news, and I think it's good for us also to understand. Also, IGAD produces, our monthly forecast. Say, for example, today we are in May. They have already released for May up to July. These are 3 because they cannot forecast for the whole year, simply because, it becomes uncertain. And it's a similar story again, that the rain is above normal. So, what are, the current hydrological, because, when you forecast the rain, you will see, its impact on the river system. And then hydrologically, the rivers in the Nile equatorial lakes are already, full. Say, for example, to the bottom left, this is River Ruvumu in Burundi. You can see clearly where the peaks flow is, and a picture taken when, we recorded that, volume or that water level. So you see the extent of the flooding already, the bottom left, I think, yes. And similarly to, another one, of course, is in Nzoia. This is a river system in Kenya, not connected to the River Nile system, but, it tells us, the response of the hydrology towards, the forecasted rainfall. So it means really the rain received is as predicted for the region. And it's not only in the Nile basin, but also on the other river systems that are not part of the River Nile. Now, let's come to, about the situation of the lakes, and this is where, the alarm was really given to us. There's some figures here, and the graph is really visible. You see that the graph of 2014 almost is getting above, every other graph here, the average or the long term recorded in 2021, 1964, towards April here is when we see, maximum recorded rainfall. So as of, that time of release, the Lake Victoria increased by about 0.2 of a meter and only observed in April. So this is something which we need to, to keep our eyes on. Otherwise, the situation in Lake Yoga. So similarly, of course, towards, April, May, a similar thing, we see rising trends. And here we have, the maximum ever recorded for Lake Albert, Lake Yoga, and Lake Victoria. The color codings really talk all about it. The light blue is about the Lake Victoria. The red one is on Kyoga, and then the green one is on Albert. So the green dotted up there, really this becomes the maximum recorded for Lake Albert, and similarly to the others. So another thing also which we know is that some of the areas around Lake Victoria are also being flooded. So investments around the lake, are being flooded also. Now, what do we know in the country? Of course, we have our South Sudan Meteorological Services that issues us, this, operational focus every week. And then this is one of the recent focus which I just pulled out for 14th to 20th. Today we are on 16th, so we are within this range. The color codes, talks a lot. We see on the parts of Western Equatoria, rainfall up to 200 millimeters are being received, and generally throughout the country we see that for these 5 days we're expecting rain of up to maybe 100 millimeters throughout, except in the Eastern Equatoria and northern part of Upper Nile, and maybe parts of Western Bahar Ghazal. So where we only expect up to about 20 millimeters of rain within these 5 days. We already have some gauging stations again, to correlate what the forecast will be like and what it tells us. On top of the chart is, a rainfall, parameter measurement in Mangala, and then down we see the one at Aswa. I picked this one just to correlate, how near is the station to the equatorial lakes and how far is it. The graph. The rainfall in Mangala, of course, is witnessed by all of us here. It's a little bit, the observation has not been equivalent to what is observed around Nimule. And this is due to the fact that, it's very closer to the Ugandan border where a lot of rain is being received. So I just have to tell you about this one. And then finally, we have, the actual measurements which we have now on the ground, and I can tell you today that, this is a Juba gauging station. We monitored the water levels for a number of years now. So over the years, we found out that the maximum ever recorded, water levels, is, shown by the red graph. And on the long-term average, of course, of our water levels in the Nile is the one from the black. We compared with, the last year, how it performed. We see that it's just above, the average, but, it never exceeded or never threatened. And I think this was witnessed last year. We never had any issues to do with the riverine flooding. But the worrying situation is that this year, the green graph, it's really very close, or somewhere, we don't know whether it will exceed or not. But we know that now the waters are really full in the Nile. So any additional rain within the country and any additional water through the Nile is going to push up this water level. and ultimately it is going to cause bank breaks, and finally some flooding, which is going to affect a number of places here. So the other one is, of course, also Mangala, because it's not good to compare only one station. And you'll see that also for this year, it's very near the maximum, actually. It's a small difference. So the worry is, this cumulative rainfall and, the oncoming rain flows, what makes us, a little bit worried. Yeah. And then finally, of course, this is some concluding remarks by saying that these are some of the facts which we have on the ground. The issue of the rising water levels, the issue of the above rain and above normal rainfall, and of course, it coincides with our local rainfall here in the country. And another thing which we need to know also is that our river systems have, very high water levels, though not at the flooding, but it's very high already. And this combination of the existing high water levels, the incoming rain, and the incoming inflow are what may trigger flooding in areas. We know from the maps which are shown before, Jonglei State, is within the lower region, the Upper Nile, Unity Upper Nile. Of course, in the equatorial region here, last time in 2021, Gumbo Market got flooded, let alone, the Gondokoro and Mangala. So these are some of the areas, that can come in. And of course, the parts of Greater Paibor and the rest. And finally, of course, the recommendations of, the letter which was sent by Honorable Paul Maideng, I think is what we are here to deliberate on. It's